Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. My coworker, who's 70 years old, tells me that back in the 1970s, they really didn't enforce a drinking age, and also it was not unusual to have a beer while in the car and drinking while driving. Can you imagine that? Not only just driving after you're drunk. And unfortunately, we still have a culture of not taking our driving seriously. I got a little bit of a life hack. Every time you get behind the wheel of a car, you have to treat it like you were doing something dangerous. You got to treat it like you were operating on a for an open heart surgery. You got to treat it like you were working with radiological material, or treat it like you were piloting an aircraft or even a spacecraft, right? Every time you get behind the wheel, you got to take that level of attention to it, right? Maybe not radiological dangers, but at least dangerous chemicals, right? You got to treat it like that because it really is on par with all of those activities. You're much more likely to be killed in a car than any of those things that I just mentioned. Seriously. And yet, we treat driving almost like it's a video game, almost like Grand Theft Auto sometimes. And that's just scary. I think games like Grand Theft Auto probably promote the idea that driving is no big deal, right? But it really is, right? Every time you get behind the wheel, treat it. I recently worked with lead, and I hope to work with thallium at some point, right? And some of the things that I do are not chemically dangerous, but have an explosion risk, right? So, for example, when I work with metals, a bunch of slag is created, and then there's a carbothermal reduction to get that slag back into solid metal again. And you got to be very careful not to get moisture involved in it, because if water comes into contact with molten bismuth, it will explode, right? And you got to treat driving like there's a potential for stuff like that to happen, because there really is, right? You would never imagine being drunk while operating with molten metals or radiological material, or operating on somebody, or flying an aircraft or a spacecraft, right? You would never imagine eating while doing any of that, especially with the dangerous chemicals, right? Why would you do it behind the wheel then, right? So this is a little bit of a life hack. And then some people get really uh, defensive when you bring this up. So I just had a falling out with a coworker. Actually, we can't carpool anymore. What had happened was he was eating a greasy burger while driving, getting grease all over the steering wheel and on his clothes, and he was swerving all around the highway. And when I pointed that out to him and how people had honked at him, he was like, "What's the big deal?" And he put his burger down. He put one hand behind his back to show that he could drive with one hand, and then he sped up to and drove like a maniac down the road, just to show me what he could do. And it scared the crap out of me. And so as soon as he got to a stop sign, I got out of the car and walked the rest of the way. That's how scared I was. And I think he has an eating disorder more than just he wants to eat behind the wheel. It felt like I was trying to talk somebody out of drinking and driving or using drugs, right? Good luck telling a heroin addict that maybe he shouldn't drive high. Right? I really felt like I was talking to somebody like that, or even somebody who's addicted to texting while driving, right? Good luck trying to talk them down. So it scared me out of my mind. But if you feel like you have to eat while you're driving, you really have to evaluate your relationship with food and do something about it. And remember, every time you get behind the wheel, treat it like you were operating with some dangerous chemical or doing open heart surgery, right? That's my little life hack that I like to do. This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Please support by leaving a dislike. We need to get the message out there. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.
Okay.